Good afternoon on what is a bright, warm and breezy day. It is Monday the 27th of June. I'm in the reading nook with this box and a nice hot cup of tea. And I'm going to continue unboxing this, which is the 40th anniversary classic edition of Call of Cthulhu. So, previously, I basically did a general unboxing of this and looked at the first piece of content, so the reprint of the core rulebook and the source book from the 1920s. And next, I am going to look at the very first supplement published for the role-playing game. Call of Cthulhu was published in 1981. This came out in 1982. It was the only release for 1982. Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, a global campaign to save mankind. It's the first campaign for Call of Cthulhu, and just see how incredibly slim it is in comparison to campaigns today, and also to its later reprints, because it's been redone a couple of times. Cthulhu Classics, and then it was it got a sort of like a second edition of a sort. So, a global campaign to save mankind. The Silver Twilight is an international organisation dedicated to the destruction of the human race. As brave investigators, you must piece together passages from esoteric books, shards of ancient artefacts, and puzzling letters to discover the Silver Twilight's loathsome goals. This multi-chapter adventure begins in Boston and spans the globe. The investigators must survive and conquer the mind-shattering monsters and minions of the Cthulhu mythos. Come, journey through awesome realms of reality and match your wits and sanity against the diabolical lurkers in Shadows of Yog-Sothoth. This scenario book includes three new adventures for Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Shadows of Yog-Sothoth is a 7-chapter tale of horror and suspense. Also included are 2 bonus scenarios. One is suitable for beginners and the other is perfect for experienced players. 8 pages of player information include corrections and additions to the Call of Cthulhu rules and a very special centerfold. So, that's just that. Just go check. Okay. So that's the centerfold. Just going to show you off that straight off. But this was essentially designed by Sandy Peterson, and really it is what you would know as the first of the onion skin campaigns, where you peel off layer and layer of mystery until you get to the heart of it. And it set the blueprint for all of the Call of Cthulhu campaigns which have come since. Now, by no means is this perfect, but nevertheless, this is the blueprint. So we start off with Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, which is set in Boston, and the investigators join a new, very expensive lodge in Boston, discover many horrific secrets, and the first kind of big problem sort of thing is with getting the characters, the investigators, involved in this. So we've got a map of the lodge there in Boston, getting them involved, getting them to want to join the lodge and then investigate it. Once they investigate it, they will be revealed to the dark secrets that the lodge members hide, and we have the plans of the sub-levels to the lodge. And we also have here the first handouts, letters and exits and so on. Now, you had sort of handouts. If we go back to, let's have a look, find it. If we go back to the Call of Cthulhu rulebook, there hadn't been handouts as such, but there had been sort of excerpts which you could read. So if we go to the haunted house, you've got, I'm just trying to think, there's nothing really here in the way of handouts that you would actually physically give to your players. There are plenty of clues to find, you know, but not actual handouts. And it'd be the same again with the other scenarios. With this campaign, you really had a sort of the first kind of format with these letters and excerpts. So that's actually an excerpt about how to make basically how a gate box works. And here we've got an actual letter, and we've got an excerpt from a book. Now, you know, this is 40 years on, and this is well, you know, really quite plain and simple. But from this kind of format, you would think that things would grow. People would begin to sort of like making these things look like period pieces, you know, handwriting fonts, excerpts from the books, and so on. And there is some here, and adding to that, you know, all the way up to making actual props. That became part of the hobby as well. So, I mean, that is incredibly short. But you know, when we get to look to the future, and this is, you know, we've got a generic letter to give to the players, and you are exposed to a strange sort of time travel cult here. It just has some kind of, almost doesn't have any kind of strange connection to the Order of the Silver Twilight. But that's quite short. It's followed by the Coven of Kanich. That Look to the Future. I mean, Look to the Future, I think, is as a concept, is possibly worthy of developing into its own campaign around that as well. You know, a time traveling cult will be really interesting to confront. And then we get international, where, you know, we step away from, we go global, and the Covenant of Kanich, and cross over to Scotland, and more of these great floor plans and letters and excerpts, and you have an archaeological dig, kind of a classic setup for the Call of Cthulhu scenario, and this is a bit more involved, a bit more open than the earlier scenarios, which really kind of focused upon just one location each, and you have a map of the Scottish Highlands to bear that out. And here you're dealing with a strange dig, witches, and more, and it's definitely connected as part of the cult. You know, essentially there's a letter from one of the NPCs in that scenario, which appears in that chapter, which appears in Order of the Silver Twilight. And then get to we go back to the United States, where the characters, the investigators, get a Devil's Canyon. Let's have a look. I'm trying to think. Basically, investigating a strange happenings at a film set, which you know, weird and creepy and so on. And you've got, I mean, the artwork in here is still great. It's still great 40 years on. We've got a map of Devil's Canyon as well. Then chapter 5, and this is where I kind of think the kind of campaign kind of takes a weird kind of sort of sidestep almost, in that a fellow occultist invites the investigators in The Worm That Walks to come and help him against various threats, including the Order of the Silver Twilight, and of course it gets increasingly dangerous each time that they send him out, to the point where of course he is revealed to be something utterly entirely different. Ultimately, when you've got all this information together, when the player characters have gathered all of this information, they can travel to Easter Island, in the Watches of Easter Island, and determine what basically, which is where the cult is gathering in order to make its progress to out into the Pacific, and then obviously summon Rillier. You have dealings with the natives of the island, some of them who are for against the cult, for the cult, against the cult, and so on. And there's various secrets to reveal there. Delving back into sort of the past of Easter Island. Again, this is 40 years old, so you kind of have to take it with, the research has moved on since then. And then the last part, of course, is the rise of Rillier, where your characters actually make it onto Rillier and stop basically Cthulhu himself being summoned. And ultimately, in 40 years of Call of Cthulhu campaigns and scenarios and general Lovecraftian investigative role-playing, it's actually it's one of the few places that stands out, that really this campaign has been the only one that has really visited the island in any meaningful sense. I think there have been other scenarios along the way as well, but yeah. And then the other thing that is kind of obvious about this is that the book as a whole is 72 pages long, and the campaign itself is 60 pages. There's really kind of an economy of storytelling here, and storytelling potential that is obviously in later campaigns that have just grown and grown in size and development. But essentially, this is quite an efficient little campaign, and perhaps not perfect because of that. Rough around the edges, I think, and the links are kind of not always as strong as they could be, and the connections to some of the scenarios kind of stand out as not really being part of the campaign as written. But it's not the worst campaign, and it's certainly, even though I'll argue sort of like there have been campaigns that have been better since. So what you've got in addition to Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, a global campaign to save mankind, is a bonus scenario, People of the Monolith, which is basically a little trip to Hungary to investigate a strange monolith in a village, usually via the poetry of the late Justin Jeffrey. So that's designed as suitable for beginning investigators. It's an introductory scenario, and that's one that can also be played by just one or two investigators. It really works well with both of that. And then we have bonus scenario to the Warren, which sends essentially the investigators into the grounds and basically Warren above and below ground of the Boucher estate, and it's generally, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's not a great scenario by any means. It's all right. It's one of those ones where you kind of go, you've got a situation and no real means of sort of solving it, and there isn't a lot of investigation involved either. But yeah, as a piece, as a period piece from 1982, it's interesting enough. Anyway, so at the end here we have complete contents. And what you don't have, I'm just trying to think, what is missing from here is, as I remember from my original copy, there's no reprinting of these handouts in the middle of the book, I don't think. which is what they did with that, I believe. Could be wrong, but anyway. So yeah, that's Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, a global campaign to save mankind. So yeah, it came out 40 years old, 1952 this year, and it's one which I look forward to reviewing in the very near future. In the meantime, I happen to know that this is going up on Christmas Day, so if you celebrate Christmas, happy Christmas. And if you have enjoyed this unboxing the Nook, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you see me out here with a box and a book which I will a game which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.